Tonight, inside Gaza's humanitarian disaster where children are starving to death.
People are drinking toilet water, they're eating wild plants, they're using animal fodder to make bread.
Plus, a new UN report details sexual violence by Hamas. The state of measles cases in Canada, what you need to know to protect your loved ones.
I would be so heartbroken to see another family go through what we went through.
Donald Trump toggles between the campaign and the courtroom.
Our political and legal systems are being stress tested in ways that has never happened before.
We break down why it was a good day for the Republican frontrunner.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. For every headline about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, there are more than 2 million individual stories. Many involve surviving bombs and bullets, but with aid just trickling in, starvation is also a threat. Tonight, that is the individual reality we're going to show you. CBC News worked with a videographer inside Gaza who can get to where foreign journalists simply cannot. The images he gathered are of a starving child. They're not easy to look at, but they are part of the war. Chris Brown brings us this little one's story.
Much of Gaza is starving, but 10-year-old Yazan Al-Kafarna's case is especially awful. Born with cerebral palsy, his family couldn't access the specific food and medical care he needed to fight off his illnesses. There's nothing available for my son, his anguished father told a videographer working for CBC News when he met the family over the weekend. Before the war, we could get the food we needed. Now, all the food I used to get him isn't available. His hospital ward in Rafah is filled with other severely undernourished children. Dr. Bilal Al-Shafi says what they're enduring is affecting their brains and development and will haunt them for life if they survive. Israel says such desperate scenes are not its fault, that the problem lies in distributing food inside Gaza. But pre-war, 500 or more trucks a day entered the territory. Now it's just a fifth of that. Humanitarian groups make the damning allegation that starvation is part of a deliberate Israeli policy.
To us, this is definitely a matter of collective punishment of the people of Palestine for what has happened on October 7th. People are drinking toilet water, they're eating wild plants, they're using animal fodder to make bread.
Nations have begun using airdrops as an insufficient stopgap, as the United States, arguably Israel's staunchest ally, joins a chorus of international voices urging Israel to let more aid trucks in. At the Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, there isn't enough food to feed even the tiniest patients. 15 children have died there in recent days, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Doctors say mothers can't nurse their babies or give them any immunities because they themselves are too malnourished. On Monday morning came word that Yazan had died. Oxfam is predicting there will be mass deaths from starvation in Gaza very soon.
This is devastating. I understand the U.S. is pushing to open more land crossings, maybe a maritime route in for aid?
Well, it's preliminary, but yes, the State Department wouldn't say where ships, for example, might dock in Gaza or how the transportation would work. Canada, as we know, is preparing an airdrop, so is Belgium, but these are very modest measures and don't really come anywhere close to filling this vast need. Only more aid trucks and a ceasefire can do that. White House officials are quoted today as saying opposition from some members of Israel's cabinet is a big part of what's slowing things down. Adrienne.
All right, Chris Brown in London, thank you. That war began on October 7th when Hamas and other groups attacked Israel, killing approximately 1,200 people, taking others as hostages. A UN team looked into allegations of sexual violence during that attack. Chris Reyes with what it found and a warning: the story contains some disturbing details.
Visiting 4 locations targeted by Hamas on October 7th, a UN team says there are reasonable grounds to believe sexual violence happened during the attacks and continues to happen to hostages being held in Gaza.
We found clear and convincing information that sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment has been committed against captives.
The allegations of sexual violence have been widely reported since October 7, but this is the first time the UN has formally sent a team to look into it. In the report, the team writes it gathered credible reports of gang rape, rapes of corpses of women, and naked or partially naked bodies tied in some cases to structures including trees and poles. From Israel's ambassador to the UN, a challenge for world leaders.
If the UN's deafening silence continues despite the findings in the report, this will definitely be the last nail in the UN's coffin. It will lose any remaining legitimacy.
Opening remarks, and then
From the UN team, this recommendation.
I am of the strong opinion that this finding does not in any way legitimize further violence, but actually reinforces the need for an urgent ceasefire.
The UN team acknowledged its report is limited in scope, saying this wasn't a full-scale investigation. The team didn't talk to survivors of sexual violence. They also couldn't look into all the allegations and raised concerns about others.
Some allegations of sexual violence previously reported and highly publicized in the media were determined by us to be unfounded. One example referring to the allegation of a pregnant woman whose womb had reportedly been ripped open before she was killed.
The UN team also visited the occupied West Bank and said it heard allegations of sexual violence against Palestinian women involving Israeli security forces and settlers. This report is now in the hands of the Secretary General with a note that a comprehensive investigation is still needed. Krish Reyes, CBC News, New York.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris met with a member of Israel's war cabinet today. They discussed aid to Gaza and efforts towards a deal to free more than 100 hostages still held there.
We're in a window of time right now where we can actually get a hostage deal done. We all want this conflict to end as soon as possible, and how it does matters.
Benny Gantz also met with other senior U.S. leaders. He's a political rival of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and reportedly did not have approval for these meetings. In the United States, Donald Trump is celebrating a big win courtesy of the Supreme Court. It ruled he cannot be removed from the ballot by Colorado or any other state over his actions on January the 6th. Paul Hunter now on the ruling and the reaction.
I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court.
For Donald Trump, it is without a doubt a clear and massive victory. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling to allow Trump's name on the ballot for the presidential election this fall. The court's 9 justices unanimously reversing a decision by the top court in Colorado that had earlier ruled Trump was disqualified.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that very well.
It all goes back to that rioting on Capitol Hill January 6, 2021, when the crowd of Trump supporters, egged on by Trump, tried to prevent Joe Biden from gaining the presidency. Many called it an attempted insurrection. The U.S. Constitution prohibits anyone who engages in insurrection against the U.S. from holding office. When Colorado then acted to remove Trump's name from its ballots, the case went to the U.S. Supreme Court for arguments, as other states had acted to follow suit. Now, in its ruling, the Supreme Court says individual states cannot be allowed to do that. It would lead to electoral chaos, ruling only the U.S. Congress has the power to act in that way. But even as efforts to keep Trump off this year's ballots failed, those who'd led the push to do so underlined.
What's important to note is that the Supreme Court's decision today did not exonerate him. They did not say that January 6th wasn't an insurrection, and they did not say that he didn't engage in insurrection. Instead, the court let him off on a technicality.
But it's a technicality with an immediate effect. Millions of Americans are now set to go to the polls for so-called Super Tuesday to nominate their choice of candidates for the White House, knowing Trump has just cleared a key hurdle that had faced him on that path, and cleared it convincingly.
So, Paul, interesting. You say the ruling was unanimous, but we know there's a bit more to this than meets the eye, right?
Yeah, 3 of the justices, Democrat appointees, wrote what's called a concurrence to say that while they effectively sign off on the ruling, they also think part of it went too far, that the court should not have said it's up to Congress to bar insurrectionists from holding office. They say that shuts the door on other potential ways of doing that to insurrectionists, including, it would seem, to Donald Trump. They called it a, quote, special rule. Interestingly, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, a Trump appointee, also disagreed with that aspect, but less forcefully. And she called out the Democrats on the bench as strident.
All right, Paul Hunter in Washington tonight. And former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg is headed back to jail after pleading guilty to perjury.
Mr. Weisselberg?
As part of a deal with prosecutors, Weisselberg admitted to lying during Trump's recent civil fraud trial about the value of Trump's Manhattan penthouse. He also admitted to lying in a deposition. The judge says Weisselberg will be sentenced to 5 months. Last year, he served 3 months for fraud. Coming up, we take a closer look at Donald Trump's legal issues, how they've done little to slow him down. That's in about 20 minutes. Some tense scenes in Haiti tonight as a state of emergency is in effect following days of violence. Armed gangs exchanged gunfire with police. They'd stormed 2 prisons over the weekend, freeing thousands of inmates. Tonight, they targeted Haiti's international airport. Canada has temporarily closed its embassy. Haiti's prime minister is abroad, securing a deal to have Kenya deploy police officers to his country. Now, concern is growing tonight over the rising number of measles cases in Canada. BC reported the province's first case in 5 years today. 10 cases have been reported in Quebec, 5 in Ontario. So those numbers may sound small, but they already exceed last year's total. And as Jennifer Yoon shows us, health officials can't figure out where some people were exposed.
BC's first measles case since 2019 involves a child who recently flew in from abroad.
Boy, yeah, this is terrifying. We should not have diseases that should be eliminated in British Columbia, like measles.
Here in Quebec, cases are climbing steadily, and some can't be traced to an obvious source such as travel, suggesting it's spreading in the community.
The minute you see local transmission, there is already concern there. It means that we haven't been able to contain it.
Il y a eu des cas à mon école, ouais, déjà.
There are already cases at my kid's school, this mom says. Her children are vaccinated, but Montreal Public Health says measles vaccination rates at city schools are lower than they need to be for herd immunity. In some schools, as low as 30%. So officials are launching a targeted vaccination blitz before spring break is over and kids are back in school next week.
Measles is probably the most infectious respiratory virus that we know.
This infectious disease expert says cases will almost certainly rise, but that vaccinations will help.
The vaccine is a highly effective, safe vaccine. We've known this vaccine for decades.
And that was like a really harrowing 7 days.
In 2019, Stefania Secia's high-risk baby was exposed to measles before he was old enough to be vaccinated.
I would be so heartbroken to see another family go through what we went through, having a baby go through this harrowing life experience in the beginning.
In the end, he didn't catch the virus, but she's imploring other parents to vaccinate their kids, not only for their sake, but also for others like her son who are vulnerable. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Montreal.
So we've asked an infectious disease specialist for pointers on keeping your family safe, and we'll explore the rise of vaccine hesitancy. That is just minutes from now on The Breakdown. The RCMP has laid terrorism charges against the man accused of firing a gun and lighting a Molotov cocktail at Edmonton City Hall back in January. 28-year-old Bazani Sarvar already faces multiple criminal counts over that incident. Now, he also faces charges of counseling, commission of a terrorism offense, and possession of property for terrorist purposes. No one was hurt in the attack. Well, Canadians who have struggled with a slow iPhone 6 or 7 could be in line for a cash payout from Apple. This after a class action lawsuit over phone throttling was settled today. Here's Anis Haidari on how much claimants could get and why.
This is the iPhone 6.
Poor performance in older iPhones, a regular complaint at this used smartphone shop.
customers were starting to call in to talk about their phones slowing down and ask what could be done about it. And the short answer is there wasn't a lot that we could do to help them out there.
It wasn't an imaginary problem. A class action lawsuit claimed as batteries got older, Apple deliberately released software that slowed down some phones without telling users. Now, years later, Apple is paying out more than $14 million in a legal settlement just approved by a BC judge.
I think they should pay because I remember what happened to the phones, and it was bad.
Obviously, they're being held accountable. You can't just do that. I mean, if the phone's good, the phone's good.
$14 million sounds like a drop in the bucket for a company worth $2.7 trillion. But eligible Canadians will be able to get up to $150 if they had an iPhone 6 or 7. Experts point out companies don't always explain software updates.
And when they don't really kind of advertise in advance that these might be some of the side effects that happen to address battery issues or security flaws or something, that's usually when there's people say, hang on, what's going on here?
Apple recently settled a similar lawsuit in the US, but they aren't admitting any wrongdoing in either case.
That's very normal. I've settled literally hundreds of class actions, and I've never had anyone admit they did anything wrong.
As for more recent iPhone users, Apple introduced a feature years ago that tells you whether they've slowed down a phone because of an old battery. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Calgary.
CBC News is projecting a win for Conservative candidate Jamil Jivani in a federal by-election just east of Toronto. The 36-year-old Yale-educated cancer survivor succeeds former Durham MP and Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole. O'Toole announced his retirement from politics last year. Jivani's win extends the Conservative streak in the riding. The party has held it for 2 decades. And the Liberal government will table its federal budget next month on April the 16th. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland made the announcement today. Her fall economic statement projected a budget deficit of more than $38 billion. A new tool in the fight against climate change is in outer space tonight.
Ignition and liftoff, Falcon 9.
The satellite that could be a giant leap forward. Next. Plus, a legendary voice goes silent.
I'd rather be lonely.
She was a pioneer. She exhibited grace, class, and dignity at all times.
Remembering Canada's first lady of jazz. And later, the prickly mess that came tumbling into town.
There was a huge wall of, I'd say, probably 15, maybe 20 feet high.
We're back in 2. Well, that's Saskatchewan digging out today after a winter storm battered parts of the province. Schools were closed, highways shut down, flights were grounded. Nearly 40 centimeters of snow fell in some spots. Parts of Manitoba, Alberta, and Ontario also saw high winds and some significant snowfall. And the cleanup is also underway in the mountains of Northern California, where over the weekend a monster storm brought nearly 300 centimeters of snow to some areas. Thousands lost power, and many ski resorts and roads were closed. Blizzard conditions have eased, but that snow is forecast to continue into Wednesday. We may soon have a more complete picture when it comes to global methane emissions. A new satellite was launched into space today to track the hazardous pollutant. Jill English now on the groundbreaking technology and its potential impact.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
Climate scientists gathered at the Vandenberg Space Force Base today, sensing a watershed moment.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower at Space Launch Complex 4 East.
Strapped to that SpaceX rocket, a state-of-the-art satellite with the sole objective of tracking methane pollution around the globe. Jeff Prevet even took a personal trip to be there.
I've been to a few launches of different things, and I thought, all right, this is historical enough. I want to just go and witness it.
Privately developed by several groups, including the Environmental Defense Fund, Google, and Harvard, the $120 million project will locate and quantify methane emissions over time. That has never been done.
It's going to be a new
tool and valuable resource that will tell us new information on emissions that we don't currently know.
The satellite is looking for methane pollution from oil and gas production because it's a major contributor to global heating.
If we can slow down the release of methane or abate it significantly, because it is 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, that's where the power of this whole thing is.
The public data from MethaneSat is expected to uncover sources of emissions that are not yet known, and experts are excited about the potential impact.
It's one of the lowest cost opportunities to tackle these issues. And just the size of the emissions right now, we can really make a huge difference in the short term.
Fairing separation confirmed.
The Canadian government is monitoring the mission, but says it needs to evaluate the technology before it can use it to support regulation. Experts say if governments were to use the public data collected, it could be a powerful tool to slow climate change. Jill English, CBC News, Toronto.
There's some big news for basketball fans. The WNBA could be coming to Toronto. So CBC News has learned billionaire Larry Tannenbaum is pursuing an expansion team through his company, the Kilmer Group. Sources say an announcement could come as soon as May. The Women's Professional Basketball League currently has 12 teams competing. All of them are in the United States. Well, Canada is remembering the long life of a unique jazz great tonight.
First woman, first black woman to have their own television show.
The legacy of Eleanor Collins. Plus, as he runs for the White House, Donald Trump is spending a lot of time in court. But do all those criminal charges hurt him or help him?
We've never had someone who occupied the Oval Office who tried to subvert the Constitution and the rule of law in such a fundamental way.
Katie Simpson looks at the surprising path for a frontrunner. And measles is on the rise in Canada. What you need to know to protect yourself and how disinformation about vaccines could be fueling the rise. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
He got a smile that makes a life.
That's the extraordinary voice of Eleanor Collins, debuting her very own CBC television show back in 1955. The groundbreaking jazz singer died on Sunday. She was 104. Eleanor Collins is being remembered for both her illustrious career and social legacy. Yvette Bren looked back at a remarkable life.
When an irresistible force such as you meets and holds immovable objects like me, you can bet.
Eleanor Collins has been dubbed Canada's First Lady of Jazz.
Something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give.
Number one, because she was the first in some of those situations. The first woman, first black woman to have their own television show.
Welcome to the show, Bert.
Well, thank you, Eleanor.
She hosted Eleanor, a CBC show in the 50s.
Something cool.
And was billed with jazz greats of her time, from Oscar Peterson to Dizzy Gillespie. Still, most people don't know her whole name, much less her first.
When I heard them, I thought, this is Canada's Ella. This is Canada's Billy, you know, thinking of all those jazz legends that go by their first names.
At 16, she was singing at supper hour shows in Edmonton.
She had courage. She was a first on many levels. She was a pioneer. And she exhibited grace, class, and dignity at all times.
In the 1930s, she moved to Burnaby, BC, at a time when black people faced overt racism. When neighbors protested her presence, she volunteered to teach their children music.
That showed the kind of person she was and how she confronted it, and she won them over.
No complaints and no regrets.
No complaints and no regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams and placing bets. But I have learned that all you give is all you get, so give it all you got.
Still strong to the last note. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. The risk from measles suddenly real and spreading.
The main concern is the decreased vaccination coverage.
How you can protect your family. But first, the trials of Donald Trump. How did they become a winning issue for the accused?
It's a fake indictment.
They're all trumped up charges.
Trump seems unstoppable as Super Tuesday looms and efforts fizzle to get him off the ballot.
It's unprecedented.
This is the breakdown. Katie Simpson walks us through the cases against Trump and how he turns them to his advantage.
Here's the challenge. See if you can tell the difference. Which side of your screen is the Donald Trump re-election event? And which one is a court appearance? Kinda hard to tell the difference. For the record, the left is a campaign event in New Hampshire. The right is a Miami courthouse where Trump was arraigned.
Okay.
It's no mistake the feel is the same.
Thank you, press.
It's what Trump's team is going for. The former president's re-election bid is largely centered around fighting his 91 criminal charges.
There's no crime, and there was no crime here at all.
One of the questions I'm asked most often by viewers, friends, and family is if Donald Trump is convicted of a crime, wouldn't that prevent him from returning to the White House? The short answer is no, probably not. But there are so many different ways that this could play out. Let's start with his eligibility.
If Trump is convicted on these charges, does that disqualify him from running for office?
No, it doesn't. There are specific grounds in the Constitution where a candidate would be ineligible to hold the office of the president, and being convicted of a felony isn't one of them.
The bar is pretty low when it comes to presidential qualifications. The Constitution says you need to be at least 35 years old, be a natural-born citizen, and have lived in the U.S. for at least 14 years. And you're not allowed to have engaged in an insurrection. So then what about January 6th, you may be asking?
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol.
The state of Colorado tried to ban Trump from its primary election ballots, citing that insurrection provision in the Constitution. But the Supreme Court rejected that argument unanimously.
Our political and legal systems are being stress tested in ways that has never happened before.
Trump is facing 4 criminal trials. Experts say jail time is least likely in the New York hush money case. He's accused of falsifying business records to hide payments to women, including porn star Stormy Daniels, to keep his alleged affairs secret.
A guy walked up on me and said to me, "Leave Trump alone, forget the story."
There's a much stronger chance of prison with a guilty verdict in the Florida classified documents case. Remember the photo of the top secret papers by the toilet? It's all part of the allegations he mishandled and willfully withheld classified materials. Jail time prospects are the same if there's a guilty verdict in the Georgia election interference case. Trump is one of 19 co-defendants accused of trying to overturn the state's voting results.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Same with the charges in the Washington, D.C. election subversion case, likely the most serious, accused of orchestrating an elaborate scheme to stay in power, involving election fraud lies and efforts to disrupt the certification of vote results. If there's a scenario where Donald Trump is serving prison time, what happens if he's in jail and wins the election?
If he's in jail and he wins the election, one way or another, I think he'll have to be released during the pendency of his term.
If he's released, it raises the question about whether he may try to pardon himself.
I could have pardoned myself when I left. People said, "Would you like to pardon yourself?" I had a couple of attorneys that said, "You can do it if you want." I had some people that said, "It would look bad if you do it," because I think it would look terrible.
Whatever Trump says, legal experts are divided on whether a president can self-pardon because it's never happened before.
This is also wild. Did you ever think we'd ever be contemplating these questions?
No, not quite like this.
All of these possibilities remain hypotheticals since his most serious trials have been repeatedly delayed.
What happens if Donald Trump wins the election, but his trials haven't started and everything's been delayed? What happens then?
As Matthew explains, it depends. For the federal trials in Florida and Washington,
he can order his attorney general to drop all charges against him. And so if he returns to the White House and those criminal cases are still pending, and it looks like one way or another they will be, even if a trial is completed, he can just make those go away.
But as president, Trump's powers would be limited when it comes to the state-level cases in New York and Georgia.
He has virtually no power over the state criminal cases except the power to delay. So the state cases are an important bulwark against complete impunity.
The New York case is the only trial with a firm start date set for later this month. With every day that passes, it becomes more and more likely that Trump's other trials could get delayed until after the election.
How exceptional is this moment in American history?
It's unprecedented. You know, American political history has seen cataclysmic conflict and violence. Nonetheless, we've never had someone who occupied the Oval Office who tried to subvert the Constitution and the rule of law in such a fundamental way.
We're going to bring our country back. For hardworking Americans, November 5th will be our new Liberation Day, but for the liars and cheaters and fraudsters and censors and imposters who have commandeered our government, it will be their Judgment Day.
Trump has turned his legal problems into a political advantage, raising millions of dollars from his supporters who view him as a victim of political persecution.
What do you make of the criminal charges Donald Trump's facing?
It's a fake indictment.
They're all trumped up charges. They're just trying to keep him away from running.
Thank you, everybody.
Trump is well on his way to clinching the Republican presidential nomination. His supporters are confident and excited about his possible return to the White House.
If you got rats in the basement and the guy who shows up is a junkyard dog and he get rid of the rats in the basement, I'll take him any day. Trump's our junkyard dog.
So while legal problems won't stop Trump from running, winning, or serving, his campaign is looking to broaden his base of support, to win over voters who might look at his court dates with a lot more skepticism.
Polls right now suggest the general public is turned off by the legal saga. But Trump is the kind of candidate who continually defies predictions and expectations. So whether charges, trials, and possible jail time will be deal breakers for voters in this unpredictable political climate, who knows?
So, Katie, we heard you talk about whether Trump's legal problems, right, are going to hurt him in a general election. But now there is, I gather, some fresh evidence to suggest that it might not be so bad for him.
Yeah, there are several new polls showing Trump with a lead over President Joe Biden. The leads are small and fairly close to the margin of error, but they show growth and momentum. Previously, Trump had trailed Biden, so this marks a shift. And truly, when you think about it, it is kind of remarkable. After January 6th and all of the chaos that followed Trump's term in office, at that time, it was thought that his political career was done. All these years later, we are sitting here having a serious conversation about how he is a leading presidential candidate. Adrian.
All right, more of those to come. Katie Simpson, Washington, thank you. Coming up, measles cases are on the rise in Canada, and some worry this is just the beginning. Up next, the shots you should have, what you need to know, plus the vaccine hesitancy behind the rise and the misinformation fueling it. How to stay safe in the face of the alarming resurgence of measles.
The overall goal is to increase that vaccination coverage.
The rise in cases at home and abroad is disturbing. Canada had declared this menace defeated more than 2 decades ago.
There was nobody that I knew that was afraid of the vaccination, and
refused it.
So let's break down how we got here and what you can do about it. Okay, so let's bring in Dr. Susie Hoda, Division Head of Infectious Diseases, University Health Network. Forgive me if this is a very naive question, but what is considered fully vaccinated for measles?
To get the maximum protection, you need to have 2 doses of the vaccine. And then about 98+% of people will be protected against measles.
So when I think about it, most people I know, I mean, were vaccinated as children. Good luck finding those vaccination cards, though. So how do you actually know if you're fully vaccinated?
I mean, the best case is you do have a record of your vaccinations, but if not, you can ask a parent or an older sibling if they recall, or you could try to trace it back from your doctor's office. But really, there's a simple blood test that can be done that will tell you that you're immune to measles, and it's very accessible.
Is it something you have to pay for?
It is not something that you necessarily have to pay for, but you should probably check in your jurisdiction.
And if you're not, if you discover that you aren't fully vaccinated, are you getting 1 shot, 2 shots? What do you have to do?
So ideally you would get 2 shots, but I didn't want to leave you with the impression that 1 shot is not effective at all. 85 to 90% of people will actually be immune after 1 immunization. So, you know, it is still of value, but the 2 shots, like I said, will give you almost 100% coverage.
But we have a situation where spring break is like roaring down the tracks at everybody. There's not much time left, and yet the warnings are going out that, you know, be careful if you're traveling, spring break. Is there enough time at this point for people to be sufficiently vaccinated if they aren't already?
Well, it does take 10 to 14 days to get your full immunity developed, but even partial immunity is going to help you. And given just how high the stakes are, I would recommend that people go ahead and get immunized if they are not immune already. And even if you're not traveling, I'd say get immunized, because a lot of people around you are going to be returning from travel, potentially from places where there's lots of measles activity. And so it's really an opportunity for everyone.
So if you are coming back from vacation and you're not feeling great and your mind is anxious, thinking, oh, what if this is measles? What are you looking for and what should you do?
So first of all, you should be aware of what the symptoms are, and usually you have some pretty vague symptoms before you actually develop that characteristic rash that people think of with measles, you know, starting with the face and then descending down through the rest of the body. If you think you have measles, it is important to get medical attention, and we do track these cases. Is very important from that perspective too, but you should let the clinic know or the emergency department know that you're coming, because that way they can ensure that you're properly isolated and other vulnerable people around you are not going to get exposed.
So I remember back in 2000, for example, when in North America, the story we were reporting was that it's over. You know, measles has been eradicated. Another one wiped off our concern list. How are we back here?
We're back here because immunization rates have dropped. And we don't have, you know, great real-time data on this, but we do have some survey data from 2021 that shows that kids, you know, around the age of 2, about 92% of people had gotten 1 dose. But when it comes to the second dose, it had dropped below 80%. And that was data from years ago now. So I think that, you know, we do need to have very high immunization rates, 95% of the population immunized in order to get herd immunity, which means it can protect those around them who may not be able to mount an immune response or who are especially vulnerable. And we just haven't been able to achieve that.
Okay, ways to go. Dr. Hoda, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at this more closely. How did we get from a disease that was gone from our lives in this country to this reality? What happened? Maybe these survey results from the Angus Reid Institute can help a bit. For parents of minor children, 17% say they are really against vaccinating their kids. That is 4 times the response from just 5 years ago. There's also been a drop in support for mandatory vaccinations in schools from 70% to 55%. So let's dig deeper into those shifting attitudes. Tim Caulfield is a professor of health and science policy at the University of Alberta. One of your specialties, Tim, is misinformation and disinformation. So I'm really curious, would we be seeing this kind of outbreak right now if not for the COVID-19 pandemic, the anxiety around it, the anxiety some have about the vaccine?
No, I really don't think so. Look, lots is going on here, right? There is understandable vaccination fatigue, just because we've been talking about vaccines so much over the last couple of years. There is a complacency, I think, a lack of understanding about how serious diseases like measles can be. But for sure, I think we're seeing spillover around the controversy and the misinformation from the COVID vaccine. And also, I think that polarization and the degree to which this has become, unfortunately, about ideology. I think that's all of that flowed from from COVID, and now we're seeing it have an impact on diseases like measles.
I suppose in a way, though, it's actually not that new. Like, most people in Canada are vaccinated, I guess in the neighborhood of 90%, but not true everywhere. I think about Ukraine, because even before COVID, even before the war, we were talking about doing stories because measles was endemic there. And a real fear about vaccine harm seemed to play a huge role even then.
In places like Ukraine, there's been some really interesting research around this. What drove that hesitancy? So there was sort of a heightened distrust of the healthcare system, inefficiency in how the vaccines were delivered, for sure, that played a role. But yes, misinformation and kind of the embrace of conspiracy theories led to that hesitancy. And even, the big one, that idea that a complete lie, a myth that vaccination is tied to things like autism, consistently debunked, but it lived on in these communities and did real harm. And we can learn from that.
We talk about the health concerns of clusters like this, but I find it kind of interesting that over the years, people have looked at global measles clusters as indicators of something else happening in these societies. And what story do those clusters tell you about a place?
When these topics become about ideology and they become about politics and they become about kind of the broader embrace of conspiracies and misinformation. And I think we can really learn from that, because I fear, one of my greatest fears is that we're going to see that kind of politicization in Canada, or at least even an increase in politicization around things like vaccination. This needs to be about the science, right? It really does need to be about the science and not about making this an ideological platform, as we're seeing in some jurisdictions in North America already. And of course, I'm thinking about Florida. More science, less politics, please.
Not everyone who is saying no to a vaccine is a conspiracy theorist. I mean, some people are genuinely afraid. How do you get ahead of that?
We do need to counter the misinformation. We need to debunk, and as I said, do that constructively. We need to pre-bunk. We need to educate people about what the misinformation around vaccines might look like so they know it when they see it. We need to listen. I think that is so important. Empathize and tailor the message to individuals and communities in a respectful way that really addresses their concerns.
All right, Timothy Caulfield, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Next, a prickly invasion in Utah and Nevada.
It was like the great tumbleweed race of 2024.
Real scenes from the Wild Wild West in our moment. So, no, that is not the backdrop of a Western film. That is South Jordan, Utah. This past weekend, it and other cities overtaken by tumbleweeds. So tumbleweeds aren't exactly uncommon there, but this many blocking streets, stacking up against homes 3 meters high, that definitely felt like a movie. Tonight, the eerie scene is our moment.
It was crazy. It was like whack-a-mole. We're used to seeing tumbleweeds, but nothing like it was this past Saturday. I live in a fairly small town outside of Las Vegas, and someone said that there's more tumbleweeds than people. It was almost like a blizzard of dust. You can't see in front of you. There was a huge wall of 15, maybe 20 feet high tumbleweeds in the entrance to where my house is. It almost took out those poor people. A lot of people don't realize that tumbleweeds are actually very sharp. All I could think of is how hurt they were getting pelted by tumbleweeds. Kind of funny, just watching the tumbleweeds make the street their own. I mean, they had to bring in massive dumpsters and literally like tractors to pick up all of these tumbleweeds. And I don't even know where a lot of people, where are they coming from? It was like the great tumbleweed race of 2024.
Okay, so the crazy thing there, apparently, aside from the tumbleweeds, were the winds. This is the same storm system that's dumping all that snow in California, but this time it took out trees, it took out signs, and Ryan said, if you were in the area and you owned a trampoline, it's gone. For all of us here at the National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app. Subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.